cornered. No mercy. Don't. It still hurts there. Please. His hand stopped midair, like he knew exactly how wrong it looked. Her voice came out broken, barely more than air. She tried to pull her legs in, but pain shot through her body so sharp it stole the breath from her lungs. The man stopped. Right there. Didn't reach. Didn't force. Just froze, his hands hovering for a second before he slowly pulled them back. I ain't gonna hurt you, he said. He'd seen men lose themselves in moments like this. He wasn't gonna be one of them. Low, calm, certain. He took off his coat and set it over her legs without looking where he shouldn't. Then he turned his head slightly away, but giving her space to breathe. But the blood didn't stop. It spread fast through the fabric beneath her. Dark, heavy, wrong. He saw it from the corner of his eye, and that's when his jaw tightened. That's too much, he muttered. He'd seen this kind of bleeding before. Once in the war, once in a town that didn't have a doctor. Both men died in under a minute. Not fear, not panic. Just a man measuring how close death was standing. Behind them, far off at first. Something rolled across the dry air. Hoof beats, slow, deliberate. Not passing through, coming closer. The girl heard it too. Her eyes widened. Don't let them find me, she whispered. There was no strength in her voice, only truth. The kind that didn't need explaining. He glanced toward the tree line, listened, counted. More than one horse, not in a hurry, because men who hunt know their prey's already bleeding. He looked back at her, young, bruised, dust on her skin, fear buried deep, like it had been there longer than just today. Then his eyes dropped again, to the blood, still flowing, still not stopping. He exhaled once, slow, controlled. You got hit high, he said. That artery's close. She shook her head weakly. Didn't understand. Didn't care. Only knew one thing, where his hands would have to go. No, she whispered again. I said no. He nodded once, not arguing, not pushing, just listening for a second, well, 1 second. Maybe the last one she had. Then he spoke. If I don't, you won't make it. No threat, no anger. Just truth laid down flat. The hoofbeats came again, closer now. A branch snapped somewhere behind the ridge. Voices followed, faint, but enough. She heard them, and whatever resistance she had left broke under something heavier than fear. Time. Her hands fell. Not giving permission, just letting go. He moved then, fast, precise. His hand pressed hard into her upper thigh, right where the blood surged strongest. She gasped. Her body tensed. Pain shot through her like fire, but he didn't look at her. Didn't hesitate, didn't take advantage of the moment. His eyes locked on the wound, on the job, on the only thing that mattered. Keeping her alive. Stay with me, Up, he said. Firm, grounded, like a man used to pulling people back from the edge. The blood slowed, not gone, but slower. Enough to buy time. He adjusted pressure, held it steady, breathing hard now. The hoofbeats were no longer distant. They were real. Close, and coming straight for the river. He leaned in slightly, his voice lower now. I've seen men die from this in under a minute. Not to scare her, to keep her here, with him, alive. Her fingers gripped weakly at the dirt, her eyes fluttered. Still afraid, still not trusting him, but no longer fighting. That was enough. He tore a strip from his shirt with one hand, wrapped it tight around her thigh, secured what he could. It wasn't pretty, wasn't clean, but it would hold, for now. He finally pulled back, just enough, and for the first time, he really looked at her face, too young, too worn, the kind of look that didn't come from one bad day, but from running too long with nowhere safe. You should have left me, she whispered. He shook his head. No. Same answer. Same weight. Behind them, a voice cut through the trees. Spread out. Another followed. She's bleeding. She can't be far. The man stood. No more time. He slid one arm under her shoulders. the other beneath her legs. Careful, measured. She flinched, then went still. "Hold on," he said. "I'm getting you out." She didn't argue, didn't trust him, didn't have the strength to. He lifted her, turned toward the trees, and walked, steady, silent, every step chosen, because one mistake would start the bleeding again. And the men behind them wouldn't bother stopping it. Before this goes any further, hear this. This story has been gathered and retold, with a few details shaped to bring out its meaning, its lessons, and the weight behind every choice. The images are crafted to help you feel what these moments might have been like. If it's not for you, step away, get some rest, take care of yourself. But if it is, stay a while and maybe leave a word. So I know to keep telling stories like this, because sometimes the truth doesn't look right at first glance. Now, the man carrying her into the trees had a name, Caleb Rourke. Once, he wore a badge, not for glory, not for praise, just enough to keep order where men forgot how, until something broke and he walked away from it, or tried to. He hadn't planned on finding her, hadn't planned on touching a stranger like that, hadn't planned on getting pulled back into trouble, but trouble was already riding behind him. By the time he reached the tree line, sweat ran down his back, his breathing stayed even, controlled, like a man who had carried worse things than this. Through the trees, hidden against the slope, a small cabin waited, rough wood, quiet, a place no one came unless they meant to. He pushed the door open with his boot, stepped inside, laid her down on the narrow bed. She gasped, pain still there, still real. But she didn't push him away this time. Didn't say those words again. He turned his back slightly, gave her space, set water within reach. No question, no pressure. After a moment, her voice came again, weak, confused. "Why, didn't you leave me?" He stood still, thinking, then answered, "Because you were dying." He didn't say the rest. Didn't say how many times he had seen that same look before. Men and women who thought they still had time, who thought someone else would step in. Most of them didn't make it, and Caleb knew something she didn't. Out here, help didn't come. It had to be chosen. He didn't look at her when he said it. It didn't need to, because men who had lived long enough out here stopped explaining things. They just did what had to be done, and most of the time, no one thanked them for it. Most of the time, no one even knew. He had seen men die waiting for help that never came, seen good people bleed out while others stood there thinking someone else would step in. That was the truth of it. Out here, no one was coming. Not for her, not for him. Only the choice in front of you, and whether you had the guts to make it. Outside, a branch snapped. Closer now. They had found the trail. So here's what matters. When the men hunting her reach that cabin, will Caleb still be a man trying to save a life, or the last thing standing between her and something far worse? He closed the door with his boot. Not loud. Just enough to shut the world out. For a moment, neither of them moved. The cabin held its breath with them. Outside, the wind shifted through the trees, and somewhere beyond it, faint but real, came the sound of men who weren't done searching. Caleb stood still, listening, counting, measuring distance the way only a man who had lived out here long enough could. Not close enough yet, but not far either. He turned back. The girl lay on the narrow bed, her face pale, her breathing uneven. The cloth around her thigh was already darkening again, not pouring, but not done either. He stepped closer, slow, careful not to startle her. "I need to check it," he said. She tensed, not as sharp as before, but still there. Still that line she didn't want crossed. He didn't reach right away, just stood there, giving her a second, letting her see it coming, letting her decide if she could bear it. After a moment, she gave the smallest nod, not trust, but acceptance. That was enough. He worked quick, lifted the cloth just enough to see, pressed again where it mattered, firm, exact. No hesitation this time. She clenched her jaw. A quiet sound slipped through her teeth, but she didn't pull away, didn't fight him. He tied the bandage tighter, adjusted it, then pulled his hands back. "That'll hold," he said, more to himself than to her. He stepped away, gave her space again. Always that. Always stepping back when the job was done. She noticed it this time. Not just what he did, but what he didn't do. Didn't stare, didn't linger, didn't take advantage of a moment no one would have blamed him for. Her eyes followed him as he moved around the room. Small place. One table. One stove. A shelf with a few things set in order. No clutter. No sign of another person ever living there. Just a man who kept things simple because life had already been complicated enough. "You live out here, alone?" she asked, her voice still weak, but clearer. He poured water into a tin cup, set it beside her again. "Yeah," that was all. She waited, maybe expecting more, maybe used to men filling silence with noise, but he didn't. He let the quiet sit where it was. After a while, she spoke again. "They're not just looking for me," she said. "They won't stop." He glanced at her, not surprised, just confirming something he already figured. "What'd you see?" he asked. She swallowed. Her eyes drifted toward the wall, like she was watching something play out again. "There was a wagon," she said, "back of a supply yard near town." Her voice tightened. "Two girls inside." She paused, breathing shallow. "They weren't traveling." Caleb didn't move, didn't interrupt. He'd heard stories like that before, never liked how they ended. "I wasn't supposed to see it," she went on. "One of them saw me." Her hands clenched slightly in the blanket. "They chased me." He nodded once, slow. "That explains the bullet." She gave a faint, humorless breath. "Guess it does." Silence settled again. But it wasn't empty now. It had weight. Meaning. The kind that didn't need more words. Outside, a twig snapped. Closer than before. Caleb's head turned slightly, listening. They were spreading out. Smart enough not to ride straight in. He moved to the small window, didn't look out fully, just enough to catch shadows between the trees. Then he stepped back. "They're close," he said, no fear in his voice. "Just fact." Her breath hitched. "How many?" "Enough." That was all he gave her. Because numbers didn't matter much out here. What mattered was who had the advantage. And right now, that wasn't them. He walked to the door, checked the rifle resting beside it. Old. Well used, but clean. Ready. He didn't pick it up yet. Not time. Not until it was... "You can ride?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not far." He expected that. Didn't press, didn't need to. His mind was already working ahead. Distance, time, paths they could take, paths they couldn't. Then he looked back at her, really looked, not as a problem, not as trouble, but as a person dropped into his life whether he liked it or not. "You got a name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Just a second." Then, "Lena." He nodded. "Caleb." Simple, even, like two people meeting under normal skies. Not like this. Not with blood on the floor, and men outside wanting her dead. She studied him. Something in her eyes had shifted. Still cautious, but no longer seeing him as the first threat in the room. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. He looked down at his hands. Still stained in places, still carrying what he'd done by that river. Then he shrugged slightly. "Couldn't leave you. Not heroic, not proud, just true." Another sound outside, closer now. A voice, low. "Tracks lead up here." Caleb's eyes lifted. Time was gone. He moved to the back wall, pulled aside a small piece of wood, revealing a narrow space behind it. Not much, but enough. "You hear anything?" he said, keeping his voice low. "You stay quiet." She nodded. No questions now. No hesitation. He helped her shift, careful, slow. Got her into the space. Covered it again. Left just enough air. Just enough light. Then he stepped back. The cabin looked the same, like no one else was there. Like it always had been. He moved to the door, rested his hand near the rifle, not holding it, not yet. A knock came, hard, not polite. "Open up." Caleb didn't rush, didn't stall. He opened the door. Just a crack at first and then wider. 2 men stood there, dusty, armed, eyes already searching past him. "Seen a girl come through here?" one asked. Caleb leaned slightly against the frame, relaxed, like he had nothing to hide. "No." The man studied him, then glanced inside. "Mind if we take a look?" Caleb didn't move, didn't smile, didn't frown, just stood there. And for a second, the air between them tightened. So here's the question. Does a man like Caleb let them walk in and risk everything? Or does he draw a line right here, knowing once it's crossed, there's no going back if you're still here? You're in the right place. Hit subscribe if you want more stories like this. Now take a sip of your tea, sit back for a minute, and tell me this. If this story hit you in the chest like it hit me, tell me your age, your state, and what time it is right now. And tell me where you're listening from. I read every single one. The man at the door didn't blink. He looked past Caleb's shoulder like he already knew what he'd find inside. Caleb didn't move, didn't shift, didn't give him an inch, just stood there, one hand resting near the door frame, body loose, like this was nothing more than a quiet afternoon interruption. "Mind if we take a look?" the man asked again. Different tone now, less polite, more certain. Caleb scratched his jaw slowly, like he was thinking it over. Like he had all the time in the world. "Ain't much to see," he said. His voice stayed even, flat. The second man stepped closer, boots heavy on the dirt, eyes sharp. "We ain't asking for much," he said. "Girl's hurt. Might be needing help." Caleb gave a small nod. "Then you best keep looking," he replied. "If she's out there, she ain't making it far." The first man studied him harder now, trying to read something, anything, but Caleb gave him nothing. No edge, no fear, no reason. Just a tired mountain man who didn't care enough to lie well. That was the trick. Not too clean, not too sharp. Just real enough to be ignored. A long second passed, then another. Wind moved through the trees behind them, somewhere off to the side. A third rider shifted in his saddle, waiting, watching. The first man finally exhaled. Spat to the side. "All right," he said. "We'll keep moving." Caleb didn't relax, didn't even blink, because men like that didn't leave empty-handed. They left to circle back, to wait. To see who made a mistake first, and out here, it only took one. Just one wrong move, and everything ended fast. Men like that didn't trust quiet places. They always came back to check twice, but he didn't turn right away. His eyes slid once more past Caleb, into the cabin, then back, like he was marking the place, not trusting it, just leaving it for later. "Appreciate it," Caleb said. Simple, nothing more. The men stepped back, boots on dirt, leather creaking. They moved off slow, not in a hurry, because men like that didn't rush unless they had to. Caleb stood in the doorway, watched them go, counted the seconds, 1, 2, 3. Then he closed the door, quiet again, but not safe, not even close. He didn't move right away, just stood there, listening, making sure they were really pulling off. Or if they were circling. After a few moments, he turned, walked back across the cabin, pulled the board aside. Lena's eyes met his instantly, says, wide, waiting. "They gone," she whispered. "For now." He helped her shift back onto the bed, careful. Slower this time. The strain was starting to show on her, color fading, breathing thinner. He checked the bandage again, still holding, but not forever. "You ain't got long like this," he said. "Not harsh, just honest." She nodded faintly. "I know." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she looked at him, something steadier in her gaze now. "They'll come back," she said. "Yeah, no point pretending otherwise. They always do." Caleb leaned back slightly, eyes drifting toward the door. Not because he was afraid, but because he knew how men like that worked. They didn't rush when they were close. They slowed down, watched, waited for you to slip. He had seen it before, men thinking they got away, letting their guard down just long enough to make one mistake, And that was all it ever took. One mistake, 1 second of thinking it was over. That was usually the moment everything fell apart, and Caleb wasn't about to make that mistake again. Caleb pulled a chair over, sat down, leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees, thinking, not about fighting, not yet, about choices, the kind that didn't leave room for halfway. "You said a wagon," he finally said. She swallowed, nodded. "Near the supply yard," she replied. "South edge of town." He grunted quietly. He knew the place. Everyone did. But most folks didn't look too close at what moved in and out of there. "Those girls," he said. "You know 'em." She hesitated. Then, "One of them," she said, "worked at the diner near the road." Her voice dropped. "They said she left." Caleb's jaw tightened just a little. "People leave all the time," he said. "That's what they say." She looked at him. And this time, there was something different. Not fear, not confusion. Something closer to anger. "They didn't leave," she said. He didn't argue. Didn't need to. He'd seen that story play out before. Different names. Same ending. He leaned back slightly, eyes drifting toward the door, then to the rifle, then back to her. "You got anyone in town?" he asked. She shook her head. No one who'd stand up for me. That told him enough. No family, no protection, no voice. Just another person who could disappear without much noise. Caleb rubbed his hands together slowly, thinking, measuring. Then he looked up again. "You can ride if I hold you steady," he asked. She gave a weak breath. Maybe, not strong, but not nothing. That was all he needed, because staying here wasn't an option anymore, not after those men had seen the place. "They'll be back before night," he said. "And next time, they won't knock." She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them again. No fear now. Just acceptance. "What are you going to do?" she asked. He stood, moved to the corner, picked up the rifle, checked it without looking. Habit, old and worn in. "Same thing I always do," he said. She waited. He glanced at her. A faint edge of something almost like a smile touched his face. Make it through the day. Not brave, not bold, just real. He stepped toward the door again, paused, listened. Nothing close. Yet. Then he looked back at her one more time, and this time there was no distance in it. No stepping back, no hesitation, just a decision settling in, quiet, heavy, final. "Thing is," he said slowly, "if we leave now," he let the thought hang there for a second, then finished it. "They'll follow." Her fingers tightened slightly on the blanket. "And if we stay," he met her eyes, and this time there was no softness left. "They'll come through that door." Silence filled the room, not empty, but full of what came next. "So here's the question. When every choice leads straight into danger, which one gets you out alive, and which one gets you killed before sunrise?" Caleb didn't waste another second. He moved fast now. Not rushed, just decided. He grabbed a small satchel from under the table, checked it with one hand, then slung it over his shoulder. Water, cloth. A few rounds, enough to move, not enough for a long fight. He stepped outside, scanned the trees, listened. Nothing close yet. But the quiet felt wrong, like the kind that came just before something broke it. He turned back inside. "Lena," he said, "we're leaving." She tried to push herself up. Pain hit her hard. Her breath caught, but she didn't stop, didn't complain. She had already learned something most people never did. Staying still didn't keep you safe. Caleb was beside her in a second, one arm steady behind her back. "Easy," he said. "Don't rush it." She nodded, focused, not on the pain, on moving through it. He helped her stand. Her weight leaned into him. Light, too light, like she had already lost more than she could afford. "You still with me?" he asked. "Yeah," she whispered. Not strong, but there. That was enough. He guided her to the door, paused once more, looked out, then moved. They stepped into the trees, off the open path, not toward town, not yet. Caleb angled them along a narrow line that barely counted as a trail. The kind only someone who lived out here would notice. Branches brushed against them, the ground uneven, every step mattered. Lena stumbled once. He caught her, didn't say anything, just steadied her and kept going. Behind them, the cabin sat quiet, still, like it had nothing to hide. That wouldn't last. They moved downhill first, toward a shallow dip where water sometimes ran in spring. Dry now, but the ground was softer. Tracks wouldn't hold as clear. Caleb slowed, watched where he stepped. Chose stone when he could, hard ground when he couldn't. Lena noticed, even through the pain. "You're hiding the trail," she said. He gave a small nod. "Trying to." She almost smiled. Almost. Then the pain came back, and the moment passed. They reached the dry creek bed. Caleb stopped, listened again. This time, the sound came clearer. Hoofbeats, not one direction, two. He looked back, then ahead, then off to the side. "They split," he said. Her stomach dropped. "That means they're not guessing anymore." He adjusted his grip on her, thinking faster now. Choices narrowing, paths closing. There was a ridge not far ahead. Steeper ground, harder to ride through. If they made it there, they might buy time. If they didn't. He didn't finish that thought. "Can you keep going?" he asked. She nodded, didn't trust her voice. He believed her anyway, because she hadn't quit yet. And people like that didn't break easy. They climbed, slow, careful. Each step pulling at her wound, each breath tighter than the last. Caleb kept his pace steady, not too fast and not too slow, the kind of pace that kept you alive longer. Halfway up, he stopped suddenly, held up a hand, listened. Voices. Closer than before, not behind. To the left? He shifted direction without a word, cutting across the slope now, using trees for cover. Lena followed as best she could, trusting his movement, not asking why, because she knew he wasn't guessing. He was remembering this land, these sounds, this kind of hunt. He'd seen it before. And that meant something else too. "You've done this before," she said quietly. He didn't look back. Something like it, that was all. But it told her enough. He wasn't just running. He knew how men like that thought. That gave them a chance, a small one, but real. They reached a cluster of rocks near the ridge. Caleb guided her behind them. Lower ground, some cover, not perfect, but better than open trees. He eased her down carefully, checked the bandage again. Still holding, barely. He tightened it once more. She flinched, but didn't pull away. "You're doing good," he said. Not comfort, not praise, just truth. Her breathing slowed slightly, not because the pain was gone, but because she knew she wasn't alone in it anymore. Caleb stood, moved a few steps out, just enough to see, not enough to be seen. A rider passed through the trees below, then another. They were close, too close. One of them stopped, looked around, then pointed. Caleb stepped back behind the rocks, heart steady, mind clear. "They're reading the ground," he said. "They'll be here soon." Lena looked up at him. No panic now, just a question. "What do we do?" He glanced at the ridge above them, then back down toward the riders, then at the narrow space between the rock. And something shifted in his eyes. Not fear, not doubt. A plan, simple, risky, the kind that didn't leave room for mistakes. He moved back toward her, lowered his voice. "We don't keep running," he said. Her breath caught slightly. "We don't," he shook his head. "No." A beat. Then, "We slow 'em down." Outside, a voice echoed up the slope. "Tracks go this way." Caleb reached for his rifle, checked the chamber, set his stance. Not rushed, not shaken. like a man stepping back into something he thought he left behind. So here's what matters now. When the hunters are this close, running won't save you anymore. What kind of man turns around and chooses to face them? Instead, Caleb didn't rush the shot. He waited, breathing slow, rifle steady against his shoulder. Below them, one of the riders stepped off his horse, bent down, touched the ground. Reading it. Too good at it. Caleb watched him for a second longer, then squeezed the trigger. The shot cracked through the trees, sharp, clean. The man below jerked sideways and dropped hard into the dirt. The horses spooked. The other riders scattered. Oh, one shouted, "Up there!" No more hiding now. Caleb stepped back behind the rocks, like calm. Already moving. They know where we are, Lena said. Yeah. No point softening it. He reloaded. Quick. Practiced. Then glanced at her. You stay low, he said. She nodded. Tight. Focused. Fear still there, but not freezing her anymore. Another shot came from below. Hit the rock near Caleb. Splintered stone. Close. Too close. He shifted position. Didn't stay where they last saw him. That was the difference. These men hunted, but he survived, and those weren't the same thing. He moved to the left side of the rocks, peered down again. 2 riders now, one circling, one taking cover behind a tree. Smart enough, but not patient. Caleb fired again. The second man ducked just in time, bullet tearing bark above his head. Spread out, someone shouted. They were trying to flank, cut him off, push him down the slope, away from the ridge. Caleb saw it, understood it, and adjusted. He moved again. Never staying still, never giving them a clean shot. Lena watched him. Through pain, through fear, and something inside her shifted again. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a man guessing. This was someone who had stood in places like this before and walked away. Caleb, she said quietly. He didn't look back. Yeah. How many can you hold off? He paused just for a second, then answered, Enough. Not a number, not a promise, just a line drawn in the dirt. Another rider pushed up from the right, trying to climb fast. Too fast. Caleb turned, fired. The shot hit the man's shoulder, spun him off balance, but he rolled down the slope with a curse, not dead, but out. For now. That left 2, maybe 3, hard to tell through the trees, but they weren't pulling back. That told Caleb something important. They needed her, bad enough to risk losing men. That meant this wasn't just about tying up loose ends. There was something bigger behind it. And men like these didn't work alone. He dropped back behind the rock, checked his rounds. Not many left. Not enough for a long fight. Lena, he said. She looked up. We don't stay here. Her brow tightened. But you said, I said we slow him down. And he gave a slight nod toward the slope. We did. Now it was time to move again. Before they regrouped, before they boxed them in, he stepped over, helped her up. Careful. Quick. She leaned into him harder this time. Weaker now. Losing strength. He felt it. Didn't say it. But he knew. Time wasn't just running. It was closing. We go over the ridge, Bo, he said. Then cut west. Town, she asked. He shook his head. Not yet. Too open. Too many eyes. Too many chances for things to go wrong. They needed distance first. Then choices. They started moving again, up the last stretch, rock underfoot, loose, unforgiving. Behind them, voices rose again, closer. Angrier. They're moving. A shot rang out, whizzed past. Too close. Caleb didn't turn. Didn't fire back. Not worth the time. Not worth the risk. Every second now mattered more than every bullet. They reached the ridge. Wind hit them harder up there. Open sky. Long view. Caleb scanned it fast, then chose a direction. West. Down a narrow cut between rocks. Hard for horses. Better for them. He guided her into it, step by step, careful, but faster now. They couldn't afford slow anymore. Halfway down, Lena stumbled hard, nearly fell. Caleb caught her, held her steady. "You with me?" he asked. She nodded, barely, but still there, still fighting. That mattered. Behind them, hoofbeats climbed the ridge. They had made it up, faster than he liked. He looked back once, saw shapes against the skyline, dark, moving. Then he turned forward again, mind already ahead. There was a narrow bend further down, a tight passage, only one way through at a time. If they reached it first, they might buy a few more minutes. Maybe more, if he used it right. "We're close," he said. "Just a little further." She didn't answer, didn't have the breath, but she kept moving, and that was enough. They reached the bend, just as he remembered. Tight, rock on both sides, barely wide enough for a horse. Caleb stopped, turned, looked back up the path, then down at Lena, and made the call. "You go ahead, Bet," he said. Her eyes lifted. "What? I'll hold them here." She shook her head weakly. "No." He crouched slightly, met her eyes. "Steady. There's a line up there," he said. "If they cross it, we don't get another chance." Her breathing hitched. "You can't stay." He didn't argue, didn't explain, just gave her the truth. "I won't be far behind." She searched his face, trying to read it, trying to find something solid in it, and she did. Not safety, not certainty, but something close. A man who didn't say things he didn't mean. Slowly, she nodded. He helped her past the bend, watched her take a few steps, then turned the corner out of sight. Only then did he turn back, rifle ready. Feet planted, the path ahead narrow. Perfect for what he needed. Above, shadows moved, voices closer now. "Boots on rock." One of them laughed, like this was already over. Caleb adjusted his grip, breathing steady. Eyes locked on the bend, and for the first time since the river, he didn't step back. He didn't move away. He stood his ground. So here's what matters next. When a man chooses to stop running and face the kind of men who never show mercy, how far is he willing to go to make sure she gets away? Caleb didn't move, not when the first shadow appeared at the top of the path, not when boots scraped rock, not even when a voice came down, low and sure. "We know you're there." He stood where the ground narrowed, rifle steady, breathing even, like a man who had already made peace with what came next. The first rider stepped into view, gun in hand, careful. Not rushing anymore. He had learned something from the shots below. Caleb watched him, waited, then fired. The man dropped before he could raise his weapon. The echo rolled down the rocks, loud, final. The others didn't rush in. That told Caleb enough. They weren't fools. They'd seen what happened to the first one. Now they would take their time, circle, think. That was worse. He stepped back half a pace and changed his angles. It didn't stay where the shot came from. Seconds later, a bullet hit the rock where he had been. Stone cracked. Dust kicked up. Close. He shifted again. Lower this time, using the curve of the bend, keeping himself just out of sight. They were testing him now. Probing. Trying to make him show his position. Caleb didn't give it. He waited. Listened. Counted footsteps. One to the left, one above, another staying back, holding a line. Then a voice called out, "You don't have to die for her." Caleb said nothing. Another voice, closer now. "Walk away, old man. This ain't your business." Caleb adjusted his grip. Eyes steady. He had heard that line before. Different place, different men. Same meaning. He leaned just enough. Saw movement. Fired. The shot hit rock. The man ducked back with a curse. Close. Not close enough. Now they knew he was still sharp. Still dangerous. That bought him something. Not much, but enough. Behind him, the path curved out of sight. Lena was somewhere past that turn. Moving. Trying. He didn't look back. Didn't need to. If he did, he might start thinking about time, and time was the one thing he didn't have. Another shot came, then another. One clipped his sleeve, tore fabric, missed skin. He didn't react, just moved again. Shifted position, changed height, changed angle. Always one step ahead of where they expected him to be, but it couldn't last. Not like this. Not with the rounds he had left. He checked quickly. 3. Maybe 4 if he counted the one chambered. Not enough. Not even close. He exhaled slowly, then did something different. He stepped out. Just enough for them to see him. A shape, a target. One of the men took the shot. Caleb dropped low at the same time. Bullet flew past. He rolled to the side. Came up behind a different rock. Now they thought he was further right. That was the point. He fired again. The man who had shot at him jerked back. Didn't fall. But he was out of the fight for now. That left 1, maybe 2. Quiet now. Too quiet. Caleb listened. Nothing. No movement. No voice. That was worse than gunfire. That meant they were thinking, planning, trying something else. He felt it before he saw it. A small shift of gravel above, different angle. He looked up. Too late. A figure moved along the upper ridge, trying to come down behind him. Caleb reacted fast, turned, fired. The shot caught the man mid-step. He slipped, lost footing, rolled hard down the slope. Didn't get back up. Silence followed, heavy, still, too quiet. The kind of quiet that never meant safety. Caleb had learned that the hard way. When the noise stopped, that's when the real trouble showed itself. And something about this silence felt wrong. Like the story wasn't done with him yet. He had felt that kind of silence before. Not peace. Not safety. Something else. The kind that settled in right before things turned bad again. Caleb didn't move, didn't lower the rifle, because men who lived long enough out here learned one thing the hard way. The danger you hear coming isn't the one that gets you. It's the one that waits, the one that watches, the one that lets you think it's over. He shifted his footing slightly, slow, careful. Eyes scanning the edges, not the open ground, because if there was one man left out there, he wouldn't be coming in loud. Caleb didn't lower the rifle, didn't relax. He waited. Counted again. 1, 2, 3. Nothing. No more movement. No more voices. For a moment, it seemed like it was over, but Caleb didn't trust that feeling. He had lived too long to believe in easy endings. He stayed where he was, listening, watching, then slowly, carefully, he stepped forward, just enough to see beyond the bend. Empty, for now. He turned slightly, looked back the way Lena had gone. No sign of her. Good. That meant she was moving, or hiding well. Either way, she had a chance. He lowered the rifle slightly, just a fraction. And that was when he heard it. Not from ahead. Not from behind. From the side, close, too close, voice, low, calm. You should have kept running. Caleb turned. Slow. And there he was. Not one of the riders, not one of the men he had already seen. This one stood different. Clean coat, steady hand, gun already leveled. Eyes that didn't rush, didn't panic. A man used to being in control. Caleb didn't raise his rifle, didn't have time, didn't have the angle. So he stood there, facing him. The man tilted his head slightly. You cost me good men, he said. I told them not to rush the cabin. Old men living alone don't usually lie, but I don't like leaving things unfinished. No anger, just fact. Caleb held his ground. You're still here. The man gave a faint smile. Yeah, a beat. Then, and now, so are you. The space between them tightened, not with noise, but with something heavier. Recognition. Two men who understood exactly what the other was. No bluff, no mistake, just truth. Caleb's fingers shifted slightly on the rifle, small, careful. The man noticed. Of course he did. His gun didn't waver. "You don't want to try that," he said. Caleb didn't answer. Didn't need to. They both knew how this kind of moment ended, or how it usually did. The wind moved between them, dry, cold, even in the heat, and somewhere beyond the ridge, far ahead, Lena was still out there, still trying to live. So here's the question now. When the man pulling the strings finally steps into the open, and you're out of time, out of bullets, and out of distance, what does Caleb do next? And what is this man really willing to take from him? The man didn't blink, didn't lower his gun, didn't shift his weight. He stood there like he had all the time in the world, like this moment already belonged to him. Caleb stayed still, rifle in hand, but not raised, not yet, because they both knew whoever moved first might not get a second chance. The wind passed between them, soft, dry, carrying dust and the faint smell of gunpowder from the shots below. "You're not one of them," Caleb said, his voice calm, even. The man gave a small nod. "No," a beat. Then, "I'm the reason they're here." That said enough. Caleb had seen men like this before. Not loud, not wild, the kind who didn't need to shout to be dangerous. "You run the wagons," Caleb said. Not a question. The man's eyes flickered just slightly, a sign of interest. "You know more than you should," he replied. Caleb didn't answer that. Didn't need to. The truth was already standing between them. "You took her," Caleb said. The man tilted his head. She saw something that wasn't hers to see. Like that explained everything. Like that made it right. Caleb's jaw tightened. Not anger, just something settling deeper, something older. "You moving people now," Caleb said. The man didn't deny it, didn't confirm it either, just stood there, calm, certain. Then he spoke again. "You used to wear a badge." Caleb's eyes narrowed slightly. Just a fraction. That was enough. The man saw it. "Thought so," he said. A faint smile touched his face. "That explains a lot." Caleb shifted his stance, slow, careful. "You got a name?" he asked. The man hesitated for a second, then gave it. "Silas." Just that. No last name. Didn't need one. Men like him built reputations that traveled ahead of them. Caleb nodded once, like filing it away. Silas looked past him briefly, toward the bend, toward where Lena had gone. "She won't make it far," Silas said. "Not with that leg." Caleb didn't turn, didn't give him the satisfaction. "Far enough," he replied. Silas smiled again, this time a little wider. "You really believe that?" Not mocking, almost curious, like he was studying something he didn't quite understand. Then his tone shifted, just a little. "Here's how this goes," Silas said. "You step aside, walk away, and I forget I ever saw you." Simple, clean, like offering a man a way out. Caleb let the words sit. Didn't rush his answer. Didn't react the way most men would. He just stood there, thinking. Then he spoke. "You don't forget things like this." Silas gave a small shrug. "I can make an exception." Caleb almost smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "No, you can't." Silas studied him. Longer this time, then nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "Then we do it the hard way." The air changed, just like that. No warning. No build-up. 1 second still, the next ready to break. Caleb's fingers tightened on the rifle. Just enough. Silas saw it. Of course he did. His gun lifted just a fraction higher. Perfect line. Perfect aim. "You're out of bullets," Silas said, not guessing, knowing. Caleb didn't answer, but he didn't deny it either. Silas took one slow step forward, then another, closing the distance, careful, measured, like a man who had ended situations like this before. "You did good up here," Silas said. "Most men wouldn't last this long." Caleb's voice stayed flat. "I ain't most men." Silas nodded again. "I can see that." Another step. Closer now. Too close. Caleb could see it clearly. The calm in his eyes, now the lack of rush, and that was the dangerous part. This wasn't a man chasing. This was a man finishing. Silas stopped. Just outside arm's reach, gun steady. You think she's worth it? He asked. No judgment, just curiosity. Caleb didn't look away. Yeah. No hesitation, no doubt. Just one word. Silas let out a quiet breath, almost like disappointment. That's where you're wrong. Caleb didn't answer, because there was nothing to argue. Men like Silas didn't see people. They saw problems, costs, losses, and Lena was just something that needed to be erased. Silas shifted slightly, a changing angle, preparing. Caleb saw it, felt it. The moment tightening. One of them was about to move, and it would be over fast. Too fast to fix, too fast to regret. Caleb's mind didn't race, didn't panic. It slowed, like it always did when things came down to one line, one choice. He thought about the river, about the blood, about the way she looked at him, like he was the worst thing she had ever seen. And still, he stayed. That meant something, even now, even here. Silas's finger tightened slightly on the trigger. Just a fraction. Enough. Caleb moved, not back, not away, forward, fast, closing the space instead of running from it. Silas fired. The shot cracked, loud, sharp. Caleb twisted. The bullet tore past his side. Close enough to feel. Not close enough to stop him. Gun skidding across the rock. Hands grabbing, fighting for control. No clean moves now. No distance, just strength. Timing, will. Silas drove an elbow into Caleb's ribs, hard. Caleb grunted. Didn't let go. He had been in fights like this before, the kind that didn't look clean, didn't look heroic. Just two men deciding who stayed standing. Silas reached for the gun, just out of reach. Caleb saw it, drove his shoulder forward, pinned him. Not clean, not perfect, but enough. For a second, just a second, everything balanced on that. Then Silas smiled. Even there. Even pinned. And that was when Caleb realized this man wasn't worried. Not at all. Because he wasn't alone. A sound came from behind. Footsteps. Fast. Close. Too late to turn. Too late to react. So here's what matters now. When Caleb finally gets his hands on the man behind it all and realizes there's still someone else in the fight, who pulls the trigger first, and who doesn't walk away from this ridge at all. The footsteps came fast, too close. Caleb didn't turn. Couldn't. Silas was still under him, fighting, twisting, trying to break free. If Caleb let go now, it was over. Not later, not maybe, right now. Then a voice cut in. Don't move. Sharp, breathing hard, not calm like Silas, not in control. Caleb froze for a split second, just enough to listen. Boots sliding on rock behind him, close enough that he could feel it. Silas smiled again, even with dirt on his face, even pinned. That'd be him, Silas said quietly. Caleb didn't answer, didn't look. His weight stayed forward, holding Silas down, because the moment he shifted, everything would break loose. The man behind him stepped closer. Gun raised, hands not steady. You get off him, the man said, voice tight, nervous. Not used to this kind of moment. That told Caleb something. Not the leader, not the thinker, just the one who followed orders. Silas tilted his head slightly. You might want to listen, he said, almost amused. Caleb's eyes flicked once, just enough to catch the gun lying a few feet away. Too far, not impossible, but close enough to matter. The man behind him stepped again. Gravel shifted, closer now. Do it, he said. Now. Caleb took a slow breath, measured, then he spoke. You pull that trigger. His voice low, steady. You ain't hitting just me. The man hesitated, just for a second. His eyes flicked to Silas, then back. Silas didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't care. That was the problem. The man with the gun wasn't thinking about that. He was thinking about ending it fast, about doing what he was told, about not losing his nerve. And men like that made mistakes. Caleb shifted slightly, just enough to tighten his hold. Silas grunted. Not pain, just pressure. You really want to gamble with that, Caleb said. The man swallowed. His grip tightened, too tight, finger pulling just a little too hard. That was all it took. Caleb moved, fast, not away, forward. He drove his weight into Silas and rolled. The shot went off, loud, wild. The bullet tore into the dirt where Caleb had been. Caleb came up hard, not on his feet, but close enough. He lunged for the gun on the ground. Silas grabbed for him. Missed, by inches. Caleb's fingers closed around the grip. Turned. Fired. The man behind him jerked back. Dropped. Gun slipping from his hand. Silence hit the ridge like a wall. Short. Sharp. Gone too fast. Caleb didn't stop. He turned again. Back to Silas. But Silas was already moving. Rolling. Reaching. Faster than a man like him should have been. He grabbed a rock. Swung it. Caleb barely got his arm up in time. The hit landed hard. Pain shot through him. The gun slipped. Not far, but enough. Silas pushed up, on his feet now. Breathing harder, but still calm, still in control. Caleb rose slower, his side burning where the earlier shot had grazed him. His arm aching from the strike, but he stayed upright. Eyes locked on Silas. No more talking now. No more offers. Just two men left standing. Silas wiped a bit of blood from his lip. Looked at Caleb like he was measuring something. Then he spoke. You're stubborn. Caleb didn't answer. Didn't need to. Silas glanced toward the path Lena had taken. Then back. You're not going to make it to her, he said. Not a threat, just a statement. Caleb took a step forward. Slow. You ain't either. Silas smiled. Faint, then moved. Fast. They closed the distance again to no guns now. Just hands, weight, force. Silas struck first. Sharp, clean. Caleb took it, drove forward, caught him, forced him back against the rock. They struggled, locked in, neither giving ground, neither breaking. Caleb felt it then. The difference. Silas wasn't stronger, wasn't faster, but he was colder. No hesitation, no second thought. Just ending things. That made him dangerous, but it also made him predictable. Caleb shifted his weight, dropped lower, drove his shoulder into Silas's center, hard. Silas lost balance just for a second. That was enough. Caleb twisted, brought him down, hit the ground hard. This time, Caleb didn't hesitate, didn't wait. He drove his forearm across Silas's throat, pinned him tight. Silas struggled, not panicking, but harder now. More desperate, air getting thin, hands grabbing, trying to break free. Caleb held. Steady. Relentless. You should have walked away, Silas rasped. Caleb leaned in, closer. You should have left her alone. Silas's eyes flickered. Not fear, but something else, understanding. Too late. His movement slowed, then stopped. The fight left him, just like that. Caleb stayed there for a second longer, making sure, then he let go. Slowly, carefully. Silas didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't get back up. The ridge went quiet again, but this time it was different, final. Caleb pushed himself up, every muscle heavy now, every breath harder. He looked down once, then away. No time for anything else. He turned, looked toward the path, toward where Lena had gone, and then he heard it. Not gunfire, not voices, something smaller, weaker. A sound carried by the wind, a stumble, a fall, and then nothing. Caleb's chest tightened. Not fear, not panic. Something worse, because silence out here didn't mean safety. It meant something had gone wrong. So here's what matters now. If Lena didn't make it past that next stretch alone, who found her first? Caleb. Or the kind of men who never leave anything unfinished. Caleb didn't think. He moved, fast, down the narrow path, every step heavier than the last, but he didn't slow, couldn't, because that silence ahead of him wasn't right. Not out here, not after everything. Lena, he called once, not loud, just enough. No answer, only the wind and the sound of his own boots hitting rock. He rounded the bend, and there she was, collapsed near a patch of loose stone, one hand still pressed against her leg, the other gripping the ground like she had tried to pull herself forward and couldn't. Caleb dropped beside her, checked her breathing. Still there, shallow, weak, but there. Hey, he said, low, I'm here. Her eyes fluttered, opened just enough to see him. And this time, she didn't look at him with fear. Didn't pull away. Didn't flinch. Just relief, the kind that doesn't come easy. You made it back, she whispered. He let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Yeah, he said. Still here. He checked the bandage. Blood again. Not as bad as before, but bad enough. He tightened it once more. Careful. Steady. She winced, but didn't complain. Didn't say those words again, because now she understood what he had done, why he had done it, and who he really was. Caleb looked around, the ridge behind them quiet. No more voices, no more hoof beats. For now, it was over. Or at least, this part of it was. He slid one arm under her shoulders, lifted her again. Slower this time, more careful. Because now it wasn't just about getting away, it was about what came after. They moved, step by step, down the path, toward something that looked a little more like safety. Sun had shifted, lower now, the light softer, less harsh than before, like the world itself had taken a breath. After everything, after the blood, after the fear, after the choices that couldn't be taken back, they reached a stretch of ground that leveled out. Caleb stopped, set her down gently, sat beside her. For the first time since the river, he let himself rest. Just for a moment. Lena looked at him, really looked this time, not at his hands, not at the past, at him. You stayed, she said. He shrugged slightly. Didn't feel right leaving. She gave a faint smile. Tired, but real. Most people would have. He didn't answer that because he knew she was right. And that was the part that stayed with him. Not the fight, not the men, but that truth that most people would have walked away. And maybe that's where this story really lands. Not in the gunshots, not in the chase, but in that one choice, the moment when a man can step back or step forward and live with what comes after. Now let me tell you something, just between you and me, I've seen stories like this before. Different names, different places, but every single one comes down to the same moment when no one is watching, and there's nothing to gain. Who do you choose to be? Caleb didn't get a medal. He didn't get a reward. He just got to live with what he did. And if you're a man over 50 listening to this right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So here's the only question that matters. When your moment comes, do you step back or do you step in? So if this story gave you something to think about, something to feel, then you're in the right place. Go ahead and leave a like. It helps more than you think. And if you want more stories like this, the kind that stick with you long after they're over, hit subscribe and stay with me because there are plenty more worth telling. And before you go, tell me this. What time is it where you are right now? And where are you listening from? I read those, everyone. And it reminds me that these stories travel further than we think. Just like the choices we make. And maybe tonight, you'll remember this one. Not for the fight, not for the danger, but for that moment by the river. When everything looked wrong, and one man chose to do the right thing anyway.